Alright, sup guys, welcome back. Today's video is going to be a continuation of the story series that I started yesterday, which is with the hike. And this one is going to be talking about the actual objective and doing the first live run through it. So I'm going to be blasting through a lot of things throughout this field op, but this is going to be the second major part of this field op. So I think like the one thing that I do have to explain is the objective. So company live fire assault, 150 Marines. We're out in the middle of 29 Palms, and it's time to go and do this objective, right? Live fire, actually shooting rounds and stuff. Now, people, this has actually caused a lot of casualties in the past, training casualties. It's a very intense range. It's sometimes called the most realistic range on Earth without actually going to combat. And yeah, pretty intense stuff. This is a live fire range. We use Humvees, we use mortars, and machine gun, overhead machine gun fire. We're breaching objectives, going into trenches, blowing things up. Grenade launchers, freaking rocket launchers. We got, again, mortars going like crazy, javelin rockets. We got every weapon in the books working with us. And the objective, if I can kind of put you through the scenario before actually telling you the story, because this is important, all right? So listen up. 30 seconds, I'll explain it. We hike up to a hill. Behind the hill, we have combat engineers blow up a piece of wire with a Bangalore, which is a giant piece of explosive. So, giant explosion happens. We run across the hill, and then there's another hill, right? That's called Machine Gun Hill. We prop up the machine guns up there. When they start firing and the mortars start firing for effect, we, all three platoons of riflemen, now, which I'm a part of, first platoon, second platoon, third platoon, we all run to our designated spots. So second and third platoon will be doing base of fire, so they'll be firing at the trench system that we're assaulting. And then the first platoon, which is my platoon, will be the first ones to go and advance towards the objective. The first thing to do is to breach a wire obstacle, so I'll be the one, I'll breach it, I'll make sure there's no mines on the wire, and then we'll cross the wire objective. Again, while machine guns are firing, mortars are firing, and we got two platoons suppressing for us, we run across the wire, and then we'll take a trench. Once we take that trench, then the other platoons will take a different trench, and then it'll just go like that. So hopefully you kind of understand how it is. Obviously, it's a big operation, 4-hour operation. It's a pretty big deal, and there's a lot that goes into it, days and days and days. So obviously I can't really put you there, but yeah, that's the objective. So, live fire run, this is our first one. We just got done with a brutal hike. Obviously, our legs are feeling it. We're dehydrated. We're hot as hell. Yeah, it's a really shitty time. Really awesome, cool. Again, there's no cloud coverage, so it's 110 degrees outside. It's the middle of the desert. So, we begin this whole assault, and we get to the first hill, right? Now, the Bangalore is going to be blown up. So, we're just waiting there, waiting for this whole assault thing, and we're like, man, we're already exhausted because we had to run 500 meters to the first hill, and there's no fire or anything, and then the Bangalore, boom, giant explosion, pushes a lot of us to our feet, to the ground from our feet, and we're like, whoa, like that, you know, that's a pretty big deal. And then after that explosion, we run across. We get the machine guns. They run up to their machine gun hill to go and start the suppressive fires. And as soon as they start firing, almost simultaneously, I think they had some radio communication, the mortars start dropping in. So now the mortars are firing. The mortars, now they were starting to just hammer the enemy, and we could hear in the distance. It's just like a thump, 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 thump. It's a really intense sound, and it's way in the distance because this whole range is like miles long, and it sucks. But anyway, they all start firing, and once they all start firing, we have a platoon that goes into a base of fire. So they're the first ones to run out. So we'll call that third platoon. They run down, they get on the base of fire, they shoot up a flare. So we see the flare, and we're like, all right, it's our time to move. We're the assault. So we start running down, and again, it's super hot. We're all sweaty, we're all exhausted, and we're sprinting everywhere. Imagine all that, and it's all in like sand. If you guys ever try to run in sand, it sucks. It's all in sand, and we're trying to run across, and there's machine gun fire overhead. There's suppressive fire. There's mortars in the distance getting louder and louder and louder as we get closer to the objective. And yeah, we're sprinting and sprinting, and then we get to the wire objective, and this is where it gets really intense. So my job was to not only be a grenadier, so I carry extra ammunition and stuff and extra rounds for my grenade launcher, my 203, but I also had this giant 5-foot plank of wood, and also 2 E-tools in a backpack that I had in my back. Now, the objective was going to be that once we hit this wire obstacle, which we just did, my squad leader is going to throw a smoke grenade. He throws the smoke grenade right in front of the wire obstacle. So now it's time for me and my assistant breacher to go out of cover and start crawling towards the objective. And what we have is we have machine guns going overhead, and we got like all these things happening at once. We got tunnel vision like crazy. And what the assistant breacher would do is he would take out of my pack, while staying low, he would take out of my pack the grappling hook we made out of just 550 cord, some duct tape, and 2 entrenching tools with the shovels going this way. And what I would do is I would take it, I've got 550 cord attached, I would wrap the 550 cord around my hand, and I would kind of go in a kneeling position, I'd throw the grappling hook as far as I could towards the concertina wire, and then I'd hit the deck, bring it back to me, and we're just making our way towards it. I throw the last throw, and it goes onto the wire, so I'm keeping my head down, and then like I'm tugging on it, making sure there's no mines attached to the wire itself, like trip wires or whatever. Luckily there's nothing, and then I'm like, all right, like, you know, we're good to go. But this entire time, I'm actually like starting to get into heat exhaustion. And like, I've got the heaviest weight out of everybody, and I'm only 130 pounds. I'm the smallest dude in my entire unit, but I've got the most amount of weight on me, and it's 110 degrees outside, and I just got done doing one of the most craziest things I've ever done in my life. And we reached the wire, and I actually, at that point, everybody realized I was actually out of it. I had heat exhaustion. I was almost, I don't remember all of it, but I do remember asking, I was like, I didn't know what was happening. Basically, the next thing to do, and I also had wire cutters, 5-pound wire cutters attached to my pack. The next thing for me to do was to go and cut the wire with the wire cutters, because it's all cleared and stuff. So I start looking around, the pack's on my back, and I'm like, where's my pack? I was like, where'd my pack go? And I look behind, and I start yelling at my platoon commander. I'm like, give me my pack, sir. Like, what do you have? Like, give me my pack. I had the wire cutters in there. And like, he's looking at me like, why are you yelling at me? Like, you want to get NJP'd? And all of my squad is just looking at me with like, did you just yell at him? Like, what is he saying? He's asking for his pack. The pack's on his back. And they started yelling back to me like, your pack's on your back, Weatherhold. Like, it was like what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, what? I was like, what's happening? Like, again, like, that's what heat exhaustion does. I'm losing it. I'm completely losing it. And I start like freaking out and stuff. I'm dizzy and I'm like falling, and I'm almost falling into the wire and stuff, and there's machine gun fire going ahead, and I'm like standing there in like a half kneel, and like they're like, get down, like, what are you doing? You're gonna get yourself killed. And I've got my assistant right there, whatever. He ends up grabbing the wire off it, hands it to me, the wire cutters, excuse me. So I grab these wire cutters, I'm like, all right. And now I'm like back into it, I'm like trying to cut it, but I don't have the strength because I'm too tired to cut the wire. I'm like, oh, I can't do it. So then he takes the 5-foot plank of wood, this really heavy piece of wood, off my pack that I was carrying around, and I put it on top of the wire. I didn't even cut the wire. You're supposed to cut it first, but I put it on top of the wire so that we can like maybe run over it. And I was like, all right, breach, 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 and all the squad starts running across this piece of wire that I have, or this plank of wood that I put over the wire. And the last man, he ends up getting caught in the wire because I didn't cut it. It felt so bad. So I was like tugging at his camis, and I end up ripping like half his cami pants off, trying to get him free from that stuff. And then he runs off and joins the squad. But then I'm the last man. When I run across, it was really weird. Like I was like ready to puke. I was ready to pass out. I've got tunnel vision. Like everything's just black. It was like I'm looking through binoculars. It was so weird. But yeah, I start like running forward, and then like I didn't even notice the corpsman was right behind me waiting. He knew I was screwed up. He knew I had heat exhaustion. It was 110 degrees out. Remember this. It's so hot. Just like the hike. But yeah, so I'm running forward and stuff, and he's like, "Weatherhold, are you okay?" And the squad leader's yelling at me to get up front with the rest of the squad. And I'm like, "Aye, Sergeant, aye, sir." And I don't know what's happening. And next thing you know, I remember seeing. All I remember after this is that I ended up like I face planted, and I was like on the ground and stuff, and it was all dizzy, and my legs were all tightened up and stuff. I ended up seeing this bush in this like other direction. There's some concealment and some cover. So basically, they ended up bringing me to that bush, and I remember waking up, and there's just I was like half covered by this bush that was right above me, and then the corpsman's working on me. He's like, hey, like yeah, you were like screwed up over there. Like I'm bringing you over here. He took off my cami. He was like unbuttoned it and like unzipped it and everything, and he was just like dumping water on me, and he was like asking me like, hey, like, you know, what time of the day is it? I'm like what, you know, he was like, what, you know, when was your birthday? Where were you born? I was like, you know, and it was really slow reactions and stuff. I was starting to get into it because, you know, obviously he got me in part of the shade and he was like trying to protect me. Yeah, and like the first thing I remember from that whole thing was like there was the bush that was over me, and then I remember just the thumps in the background of the mortars, just like, and then obviously there's cracking machine gun fire overhead, and there's all this sound. There's 50 cals being fired in the distance from the Humvees, and oh man, it was a crazy scene. And the corpsman, I remember the doc, he was like, man, like, I'll tell you what, like, while he's treating me, and, you know, he's just trying to make small talk, and he's like, hey, man, like, I'll tell you what, like, if you had not passed out there, I would have passed out. Like, so I seriously thank you. Like, no shit, I would have been a heat casualty, and I'm the doctor. Like, how am I supposed to, you know, and I don't blame him either, because he also has the most amount of weight. We're the only ones with a pack on. He has pack of medical supplies, but I have a pack full of, like, ammunition and, like, all the supplies for cutting the wire and stuff. So we've got the heaviest packs, and you know, we kind of bonded over that. But yeah, he ended up treating me. He ends up rolling me to my side, and he's like, all right, I know it sucks, but you're gonna have to take off your pants. I'm gonna have to take your core temperature, rectal temperature. I'm like, oh shit. I was like, all right. And you know, I bend over, and then he puts the silver bullet, it's called, inside, and he takes it back, and he's like, 103.4, you're fucked. I'm like, oh my god. Yeah, he was like, yeah, so you got heat exhaustion. I can see your face is all, it's not even like red anymore. It's not sweaty. It's just pale, and it's not in a good condition. Yeah, you're like totally screwed up. You can't even like answer the questions in a good way. So he ends up calling on medevac for me in the middle of this operation. Yeah, the medevac picks us up, and there's a machine gunner in there. I don't even know why that machine gunner was in there, because they didn't have to run. They were just like up there. Oh man, Pringles can almost went running down, just like the machine gunners, right? But yeah, there was a machine gunner in there. There was a couple other guys from some other platoon, and they were being worked on IVs. We had like freaking ice packs being held up to our necks, and like they were telling us to treat ourselves, and we're like, you know, we're all just sitting there like, holy shit, this sucks. And yeah, man, intense stuff. This is just a field operation, right? So I ended up not making through. So they ended up driving us back to the main area where it was outside of the range, and they started treating us more heavily. They were putting IV packs up, and, you know, it was just a crazy scene. And, you know, there's tents up and stuff, and they had actually propped up a bunch of tents so that after this whole assault, that, you know, they could bring the rest of the guys who made it all the way through underneath the tents and start treating them, because they knew they were going to get heat exhaustion or something. So everybody ended up coming back after this whole operation. The rest of them completed it, but like 10 of us didn't. And we were all just underneath these cami nettings, and we were just like hating our lives, like, holy shit, that sucked. And again, like, a lot of people die during this range. This isn't any joke. This is like a serious thing. People die during this range, either getting shot from machine gun fire, or they die from heat casualties. It's like real shit. We all feel pretty lucky after those times. It's you know, it's not a fun time. So range 400, that's what it is. Yeah, so make sure to wait for next video. The next video is gonna be the last part, and it's actually the best part. It's a more positive ending, no worries. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, stay motivated.